Hello and welcome to my channel, Talisman Tarot. In this reading I want to ask the cards what your psychic abilities are and how to master them. And so I have 4 groups here for you. This will be group number 1, this will be group number 2, this will be group number 3, and this will be group number 4. And so I will ask you to use your intuition to really choose the right group for you, the group that speaks to you the most, the group that draws you in, the group that catches your eye, and that group will be your group. And so you can pause the video if you need more time, but if you don't, let's just proceed to the reading. And so, hello, group number 1, you chose this smoky marble, and so let's draw some cards here for you about your psychic abilities. And so 9 of Pentacles, King of Cups reversed, and the Devil. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I see this 9 of Pentacles card here is that this sun god or whatever is throwing down pentacles with numbers on them, and these angels are catching these pentacles with numbers on them. And so I immediately think about angel numbers. So I think you are good at noticing angel numbers, you're good at noticing numbers repeat themselves, like 222 or 333, and you know how to interpret those numbers as messages for you. And so I think you're good at synchronicities, you're good at catching synchronicities, but also with the King of Cups here reversed, when it's upright you can see this peacock on this king's head, and so when it's reversed I think of the peahen in that relationship. And the peacock is the passive one. The peacock is the one with the feathers. The peacock is trying to attract the peahen with its feathers, and so the peahen is the one who is supposed to approach the peacock. It's the peahen who is supposed to be attracted, while the peacock is the attractive part. So the peahen is active, the peacock is passive. And what that tells me about your psychic abilities is that your psychic abilities is passive and you are the active peahen approaching your passive psychic abilities. And I think, that's a good thing, because it means that you can easily control your psychic abilities because you are the peahen. You can choose to pursue the peacock. You can also choose not to if you want to. So the peacock won't come knocking on your door late at night without your permission. Like, you won't be woken up by a ghost, like a ghost grandmother of a friend of yours who wants to deliver a message to her grandson and who uses you as like a medium to deliver a message for her grandson. Like, you won't have those kind of experiences, which is a good thing because that's exhausting. So you are much more in control of your gift. You can turn it off, you can turn it on as you please. You are the one knocking on the door. You are the peahen. So I believe like we can divide psychic people into two groups, peacocks and peahens. The peacocks receive answers without asking any questions, while the peahens, which is you, the group that you are in, only receive answers when they ask questions. And it's my personal theory that the difference between these two types of psychics is that the peacocks who receive answers without asking questions have mastered their abilities from a very early age, and therefore their psychic abilities is within their subconscious mind, because everything we learned as children exists in our subconscious mind, and well, we are not in control of our subconscious mind, and so these psychic abilities become unruly and wild and raw, while when we master our psychic abilities as adults, our psychic abilities exist in our conscious mind, which makes us very much in control over these psychic abilities. And so I think you've either mastered your abilities as an adult, or you are about to master your abilities as an adult. So I don't know if you've already mastered your abilities, but well, you're going to, as even like you, I think you've mastered your abilities as an adult, or you're going to. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean you haven't had your abilities since you were a child. You just didn't master your abilities when you were a child. And so I think some of you have blocked your abilities, or you learned to block them as a child. Maybe other people told you to. So, well, I have a hunch that you are clairaudient, and I think you probably talked to yourself as a child, and then someone told you that you should stop doing that it was weird or strange, and that you should talk with your inside voice instead. And well, in a way it's a good thing, in a way it's a bad thing, because, well, I see that your inside voice really is the key to your psychic ability, or your psychic ability. So the fact that you were encouraged to use your inside voice instead was actually a good thing. But I don't think you talked to yourself using your inside voice after that because you felt ashamed about it. Like, and so I feel like your inside voice was muted after that, and then you learned to read in school. And then your inside voice was like, yay, and now I can finally come out to play. And then, well, a few years later, your teacher told you to mute your inside voice again when you read, because the fact that you were reading out loud in your head was slowing you down. And so I think those two factors actually played a huge role in blocking your psychic abilities. But I think your inside voice might have found a loophole, because it might have been able to penetrate you when you wrote. Penetrate is not a good word, but it's like the best word I can come out with right now. But like, because when we write, we use our inside voice to form the sentences before we write them down. And so I think many of you actually were good writers from a very early age, because it seemed that your psychic abilities only could come through that way, which means you probably have had maybe even prophetic experiences as a child, like prophecies, where you wrote something that was so poetic and so profound that it seemed almost impossible that a child could have written that. And I think that was because like it wasn't a child who wrote that. It wasn't you who wrote that. It was someone else writing through you. It was the spirit writing through you. And so I think you had those experiences as a child where you wrote something that was completely out of your expertise. Like, you couldn't have written that because you were only a child. You didn't have the qualifications to do that. You didn't have the skills to do that. And so, if that makes sense, you might have written something as a child, and you might have read it afterwards, years afterwards, and you might have realized that there was so much symbolism and so much so many metaphors and so many ways to interpret what you had written as a child, that it was just too profound for a child to have written that. And so I think you have the psychic gift of automatic writing, but also the gift of writing prophecies. You write with the spirit. You can write something with the spirit writing through you. And so you have this, the spirit is in your words. And that's how the spirit comes through you. And so I think the spirit comes through when you write. You sit down and you think you're going to write one thing, and then you end up writing something completely different. And that is the spirit interfering with your written word. And you might also have you might also make Freudian slips when you write. You might write the wrong words sometimes, but really it's the right word because the spirit is intervening, interfering with your work, but it might actually also be like the reason why you are a bit passive when it comes to writing. Like, you have been told your whole life that maybe that you should write a book because you are so good at writing, but you might actually have a bit of writer's block. Like, you are passive, you don't seem to be able to activate your psychic ability that easily, and you probably feel like the only way you can activate yourself to actually write something magical is if someone else activates you, if someone else gives you an assignment, like a school assignment, then you can activate the magic and write something amazing. And so I think a way to activate your psychic abilities on your own without having someone else give you an assignment or something like that is if you acknowledge that it's not you who is writing, that it's the spirit who is writing. And so if you recognize that the spirit is writing through you, then you can actually become the teacher who gives yourself an assignment. Like, you can give the spirit an assignment, and that in that way you can take control over the spirit by actually activating the spirit. And I think that would like reveal you from that writer's block, because like the writer's block might be there because you don't know what you're going to write, and so you want to have it all figured out beforehand. Before you start writing, you want to know what you're going to write about first before you start writing. You want to fabricate a story in your mind first. But remember that your mind is actually rather silent, so it's not really working out for you. So you need to just sit your ass down and pick up a pen and a notebook and just let the spirit write through you. And I remember that I was able to do this as a child, and maybe you were too. And one of the things I remember from writing as a child was the excitement, because I never knew what was going to happen next in the story. Like, even though I was the one writing it, I never knew what was going to happen next. And so I had just as much excitement as the reader, because I was kind of the reader myself. Like, I was the reader and the writer of the story. I was writing the story, but I was reading the story while I was writing it. I was excited about how the story was going to unfold. I didn't have anything figured out, and so it was like I was telling a story to myself, like a good night story, like a fairy tale right before going to bed, like as a child. And so I was entertaining myself with the story I was writing. And I think if we can all get back to that excitement we had as a child writing a story, we could actually write some really great stories, because I think that's the key, really. And I think it's a key for you, because like the spirit is writing through you. And so even though you haven't figured the story out, the Spirit has. And so you just need to trust that the Spirit has it all figured out, and you just need to write it, and you just need to be excited about it and look at it unfold, and look at it with excitement. And so well, I think the writer's block you've had, that has also been like learned behavior, because you were probably told in school that you had to have everything figured out, because like you needed to have everything figured out before you started writing, that you had to make like a plan for the story, that you should write down the main characters and the personalities of those characters and their relationships with the other characters, and make a map and a timeline, and you probably got completely discouraged by all of this, because that took all of the fun out of writing. And you're probably still a bit affected by this. You probably still feel like you never like that you were robbed from the excitement, that you still feel like you need to have it all figured out now as well. Like you're still affected by this now, but you don't have to have it all figured out. And you can trust me on this, because like you just need to let Spirit write through you, and then afterwards you can make some adjustments if you need to, if you discover some plot holes or something like that, like you can make adjustments afterwards, but you just have to start writing, because your psychic ability is to write. You're good at writing. That's the thing that will give you the most success, is writing. I see that, and I'm not even in any doubt about that at all. There's no doubt in my mind that you're supposed to write. And so I think that back when you were a child and you were talking to yourself, I think you were actually telling yourself stories. I think like when you were walking alone and you didn't think others could hear you, you probably were talking to yourself and telling yourself stories while you were talking to yourself. That was what you were talking to yourself about. Or that's what I believe happened when you were a child. So maybe you did this on the way to school. Maybe you actually did it because you were bored and you kept yourself entertained by telling yourself stories. Like you were in a way writing stories out loud instead of on the paper. And so maybe someone noticed this, maybe a child, and maybe that child bullied you for talking to yourself and something like that, and maybe that's why you felt so ashamed that you stopped doing that completely from one day to the next. And so I think you can't get back to that if you just unmute your inside voice. And I think one way to unmute your inside voice is to start reading out loud when you read, like that you need to read out loud in your head. And I think you should do that because it might activate your gift, but also because if you unmute your inside voice, you can do something that I personally call intuitive reading. And I don't know if there is a term for it, but it's something I do myself. It's where you read out loud in your head, but you pay close attention to the words that you misread. And well, I personally misread more when I read out loud in my head than if I don't read out loud. And then, well, I think it's because the spirit penetrates my inside voice. And well, if you're not like me and not misreading words even when you use your inside voice for reading, you might want to read a bit faster. Maybe that might trigger it, but well, I don't know if it will work for you. But what I also think happens when you misread words is that you read the words as they should be, and so it is a spirit reading through you and correcting the author who wrote the book. And so you need to pay attention to what you misread. Like now the devil card here shows a picture of Eve in Garden of Eden. And well, you could, for example, read that story, that myth, and see if the spirit corrects any words by making you misread them. And well, there are also words that might have been translated wrongly, and you might be able to read the story as it was written originally with the right translations, just by allowing the spirit to read the story using your inside voice, if that makes sense. And so I think a lot of interesting things might come up when you start reading with your inside voice. And well, if you're already reading with your inside voice, I just think you should start reading more holy scriptures and ancient texts, like the Adam and Eve story and like the Bible and stuff like that, because I think you might actually be able to solve some religious mysteries that way, and you might think to yourself that this is cool and all, but what does all of this have to do with clairaudience? Isn't clairaudience clear hearing? This is not clear hearing, this is clear speaking or clear reading and whatever. And well, you're right, but there seems to be a connection here, because well, I think clairaudience, like I'm clairaudient, but I still have this clear speaking and clear reading and whatever, and it seems to be intertwined. in a way, like I've come to the conclusion that it's clairaudience because personally I seem to be unable to use my inside voice if I have earmuffs or noise cancelling headphones on. And I've noticed this many times, like I'm very sensitive to noise or sounds. And so once I chose to wear headphones to a written exam so that I could focus better, but I realized that I couldn't actually write anything. It was like I was blocked. And when I took off my headphones and like then I suddenly could write the words like in the written exam, like the words just started flowing out of me, like, and so I think there is a connection here, and so you are clairaudient, I think, and well, strangely, your clairaudience makes you able to write automatically and read intuitively, and it also makes you able to do another cool thing that and that is to speak in tongues, and I'm very certain you can do this. So I really want to encourage you to practice speaking in tongues because it's really cool. So if you're not familiar with it, it's just saying a bunch of gibberish, and then that gibberish might mean something in another language. And so, but the thing is that you shouldn't do it using your actual voice. You should use your inside voice, your inner voice, and then you should write those words down that you've formed in your head using your inside voice, and then afterwards you translate those words to see if they mean something on other languages. And so I think you could become really good at this. And so there are many ways to master your psychic abilities, but you are like the angels here. You need to catch what the spirit is throwing at you, and so you can activate your inside voice, and you can use that inside voice in numerous ways to receive prophecies from the spirit. But you also have, the ability to silence that voice if you want to. You can speak in tongues, but you can also not speak in tongues. Like you'll never speak in tongues intentionally. Not like you've probably seen like those people, like those religious people who just start bursting in, like speaking in tongues, like out of the blue. They start saying a bunch of words in another language. You won't be like them, but you can provoke it. You can make it happen for you. Like you can start saying a bunch of gibberish words and look it up and translate those words and see if there's a meaning to it. But you won't, there won't happen anything unintentionally, which is also a good thing because that means you're in control. And so you can turn it off and on. And it's a good thing that you learn to read without your inside voice as well, because now you can also, like, if you don't want to have these Freudian slips happen when you read, you can actually just turn it off by just stopping reading out loud. And so, like, your gift is very manageable in a way. So the only thing you can't control is the psychic interference that happens when you write. And, well, that's not really a bad thing at all, because, well, you can control your writing. You can stop writing if you don't want to have any psychic input when you write. Like, you don't have to write if you don't want to. And so, like, it won't interfere with your everyday life, if you get what I mean. So, and it's also a good thing, because it only like gives you a more poetic way to write, and I don't think it's a bad thing. It's a talent, and it's a good thing. And so that's what I see for you, group number 1. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. And bye. Hello, group number 2. You chose this kyanite or cyanide, and so let's draw some cards for you, group number 2, to see what psychic abilities you have. So the first card is the Empress. The second card is the Chariot. The third card is the Moon. And the fourth card is the Hermit reversed. And so, okay, there's only major arcana cards here, so I think you are very psychic. With the Empress here, I think you are an empath, and I think you are clairsentient. You're able to sense how people feel. You can tell if people are sad or angry, and I think you've been able to do this since early childhood. And, well, I have a feeling that some of you developed your psychic abilities because you had a parent who were an alcoholic or a drug addict, and so you always had to tap into your mother's energy. I don't know if, for some reason I think of the mother, because, well, of course the Empress is here and the Moon is also here, so I feel like it's your mother who had these issues, but it doesn't have to be your mother. But someone in your family, a family member, had maybe a drug problem, a drug addiction or alcohol addiction, and you had to sense if it was going to be a bad day or a good day. As a child, you had to sense that in your parent, so that you could adapt to whatever mental state your parent was in that day. And it doesn't have to be addiction, it could also be it could have been mental illness or even physical illness. Like, I think one of your parents, I want to say the mother, was, but like had good days and bad days, and so you developed the ability to sense this family member's emotions so that you could act accordingly. But it might also have been a way to tell if you should lower your expectations that day so that you wouldn't get disappointed, and so I sense some unpredictability in your childhood, and that makes so much sense because I think you developed your psychic abilities as a child so that you could be able to make predictions, create cosmos in the chaos, and so you started developing a way to read people, and it probably started with one of your parents, or maybe even both of your parents, or maybe a sibling. It could also have been a sibling. I'm not sure, but someone in your family might have had an addiction that made them change their behavior from one day to the next. Or someone in your family was bipolar, which made them depressed one day and manic the next day. And children need structure. Children need to be able to predict what happens next because they need structure. They need to know that. And I believe that's why God grants these children with psychic abilities so that they can predict the unpredictable. And so I think you learned to read this family member, you became able to read their feelings, their mind. You were able to sense if the person would have an angry outburst or if the person would break down in tears that day. Like, you could tell before it happened so that you could act accordingly. This could also have been both your parents. Like, maybe your parents got a divorce when you were a child, and maybe before the divorce your parents were constantly fighting, and maybe in the years leading up to the divorce you tried to prevent your parents from fighting because you were afraid that it would end up in divorce. So you mastered the ability to read when something was going on beneath the, like, underneath the surface, when something was brewing underneath, and so you tried to prevent the fights from happening. And so I think you became a master of feeling people out, feeling if something was going on, if feelings were getting hurt, and if those hurt feelings would escalate into a fight that potentially could lead to divorce. And so I think you mastered your psychic abilities as a child. You became able to feel people out, to tap into their energies, and I think you have that psychic ability as an adult now. But well, it is a bit problematic when we master our psychic abilities in our childhood, because we tend to not be as in control of these psychic abilities than if we mastered them as an adult, because what we learn as a child ends up in the subconscious mind, while the things we learn as an adult ends up in the conscious mind. And so it's a bit difficult to take control of the psychic abilities that we've learned as a child, because they are inside our subconscious mind. And so I see that your psychic abilities are more or less out of your control. You tap into people's energies without even knowing that you're doing it. You are reading people's feelings and minds effortlessly, but so effortlessly that you're not even aware of it. And well, it in itself, it's not that big of a deal, because reading people is of course not a bad thing. Reading people's energies and feelings, like people's sorrows, is not a bad thing. It's actually not that big of a problem. I often hear people say that the problem with being an empath or being hypersensitive or stuff like that is that you are getting weighed down by other people's emotions. But in my opinion, that's not the problem, really. The problem is that you are constantly leaving your own body and you are visiting other people's bodies. You are hopping from person to person and feeling people out. You're feeling how it is to be in their shoes, and the problem with that is that you are leaving your own shoes unused. And so when you get back to your own body and try your own shoes on, you get sores on your feet because you haven't broken your own shoes in yet, because you keep wearing other people's shoes instead. And so you start losing yourself, your own sense of self, your own identity, simply because you don't spend enough time in your own body to really form your own identity. And so it's good that you are able to visit other people's bodies, to tap into their energies, to feel what they are feeling. But you need to find a way to do that without leaving your body. You need to find a way to control this, because, well, there are, a lot of problems with constantly leaving your body, and more problems than just losing your identity, even though that's quite horrible. But there are other problems as well. It also leaves your body quite vulnerable. When you leave your body, you are not in your body to protect your body. And I don't know if you know what I mean, but some of you do, but now I'm going to warn you that what I'm going to say might trigger some of you, but sometimes children start leaving their body or their bodies because someone is abusing them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual abuse or violence, extreme violence or something like that. I personally started leaving my body as a child because I love my older brother, but he was violent towards me when we were children. And my brother, well, used to lie me down on the floor, and he would grab my arms and my feet, like he had very big hands, and I was a small child at the time, so like with his left hand he would grab my right foot and my right hand, and with his right hand he would grab my left foot and my left hand, and then he would grab onto those and force my hands and feet behind my head. And well, I was hypermobile, like double jointed as a child. I'm still that, but like, and he could do that very easily, and then he would push down on me with his entire body, like the weight of his whole body, and so that I was suffocating, and my legs and arms were of course locked because he held it onto them, and so I couldn't fight back. I couldn't kick him or punch him because I didn't have my arms or legs free. And well, when your chest, like my chest was on my chin, like on my chin, like, and that made me unable to breathe, and I couldn't say anything either because I was blocked, like my throat was blocked, so I couldn't scream, I couldn't say anything, I couldn't tell him to stop because I was blocked, and so I was just lying there suffocating without being able to use my hands or feet or scream, and he would lie on top of me for minutes sometimes, and I remember clear as day how my mind just wandered off, how I started daydreaming myself to a happy place, a place where I wasn't being suffocated by my older brother. And I think that is how I became a daydreamer in the first place. I think that was the beginning, because I daydream all the time. My mind wanders off all the time. I'm usually never present in the moment, and you might be the same way. And well, the problem I then had was a few years ago when I experienced a rape, because I had a boyfriend a few years ago who raped me, and I did the exact same thing while I was being raped by that boyfriend as I did when I was being suffocated by my older brother as a child. I started daydreaming. I started escaping to that happy place inside my mind. And well, when I was raped a few years ago, like, it started out as, well, a normal intercourse, but then he became very rough, and I asked him to stop, and he kept going, and then I tried to push him away, and then I realized that I couldn't push him away, because I tried to push him away and it just made him hurt me more. And because then he just forced himself more on me, and I did exactly as I did as a child. When my brother was suffocating me, I wandered off and started thinking about something entirely different, and I just entered my happy space and waited there until it was over. And well, the problem with that is that sorry, I'm rambling about myself, I'll make it quick, but this, like, when the rape was over, I started downplaying it in my mind. I was able to totally deny what had happened, and I think it's because my mind wasn't there to witness most of the rape. And so even though I had actually been bleeding after, like, it made me bleed like the rape, and so it was traumatic, but my mind still believed that it wasn't a big deal, that the bleeding was probably just menstrual spotting, and it was probably just normal. But then after the person who raped me had left my apartment, I walked out to the grocery store, and I just started crying right in the middle of the grocery store, and I had no clue why I was crying. Like, I even thought that maybe it was because of the spotting, the menstrual spotting, that it was a hormonal thing, and I never ever cry. I like, especially not in front of other people, and I just rushed home after that because I couldn't control the tears, and I called my mother, and I never even mentioned what had happened. Like, and for 6 months I didn't mention the rape to anyone. I completely repressed the memory to the point where it made me physically ill. Like, I lost like 50 pounds. I had all these strange symptoms, and I thought I had like multiple sclerosis or something like that, and it, like, I felt so ill, and it just hit me one day when I was watching a movie about a girl who had been raped. And I started crying uncontrollably again while I was watching that movie, and it just occurred to me that I had been raped at that point. Like, I had not the thought had not come to my mind before that. And so, but it was my body that was showing me that. It was my body who was showing me with the tears. Like, I didn't know, but I know that for some reason I was uncontrollably crying right in the middle of a movie, and right in the middle of the grocery store, and like, my body was showing me signs, but I didn't know, and it was just when I paid attention to my body that I knew what had happened, really. But so, like, my body was reacting to the trauma that my mind was able to repress. So, because my body experienced the trauma, my mind might have escaped the trauma, but my body was there, and it didn't forget about it. It couldn't forget about it because it was there. And so my mind had experienced the whole thing, and my mind was my body had experienced the whole thing, and so my body reacted to the trauma. My body cried, my body lost its appetite, my body became sick, and so that's the problem with leaving our bodies. It might make it easier for us to mentally cope with abuse and trauma and things like that, but our body still remembers. Our body is not as able to escape those things, and so I think you need to try to trap your mind inside your body more. Try to ground yourself inside your body, and that might mean that, well, if you're interested in enhancing your psychic abilities right now, and maybe even try some astral traveling and stuff like that, you might need to put that on hold for now, because you shouldn't practice anything that involves leaving the body right now. You need to become grounded, and so I think you need to meditate more, where you only focus on becoming more aware of your body, where you feel your body's needs, and also feel your pain. Tune into your pain and try to feel it intensely, because, well, maybe you've also detached yourself from your body because of physical pain. Maybe you discovered at some point in your life, maybe in your childhood, that you could make your stomach cramps or your back pain or your headaches go away by just ignoring them and thinking of something else. And so maybe you need to undiscover that by feeling your pain again. And so maybe take 10 minutes every morning to check in on your body and feel your pain, because that way you can also figure out what your body needs in order to relieve that pain. Because, well, we can't really heal our body if we ignore its pain. And so also try to be more comfortable in your own body. Try being more present in both your body and the now, in the presence. Try to make your body a nice place to be, that and make it so nice that your mind won't try to escape so often. And, well, personally, I realized something about my own body, and, well, maybe some of you have the same thing, but some of you might not. And so, but, well, maybe a few of you will resonate with this. So nearly all my life I have had restless leg syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, it's this uncontrollable urge to move your legs. And, well, so you might have it too. You might have this urge to rock your leg back and forth when you sit down, or tap your feet when you sit down or when you stand up. And a few months ago I realized that, well, my restless leg syndrome was a physical manifestation of my mind leaving my body. And I realized that it was a signal my body was making, so that I could be aware of whenever my mind was about to leave, so that I could grab onto my mind and pull it back inside my body. And after I realized that, I have been able to control the movement of my legs. But I also realized that it was a signal my body was making, so that I could be aware of whenever my mind was about to leave so that I could grab on to it and pull it back. And after I realized that, I have been able to also control my mind. And so it's a blessing and not a curse, because I have been able to make my mind not leave, if that makes sense. And so I have been leaving my body since I was a child, and I've never been able to really control it. But I've realized that now I have this signal. My body will tell me exactly when my mind is starting to leave. And so it can be something as simple as sitting in class and then my legs start moving, and then I realize that it's because I've stopped paying attention to what the teacher is saying, and I'm starting to daydream, and then I can adjust myself and regain my focus, and then I won't leave my body. I can be present in the moment in the class. But I also realized that I start moving my legs when I talk to people, and like when I start tapping into their energies and start wondering what they are thinking, and especially thinking about me, I start rocking my leg, and then I can stop myself from doing that and tell myself that what is going on in their minds is none of my business. I don't have to stick my nose into everything. And so, like, you might have restless leg syndrome, which might be the very thing that can actually help you become more grounded if you use it as I described. But if you don't have restless legs syndrome, you might have something else that might be a bit like that, like something that can tip you off. Like maybe you have some nervous tic, maybe you start fidgeting with your hands, like maybe you start playing with your hair or something like that. And maybe if you start paying attention to those things, you might realize that there is a pattern, that you do these things when you are not grounded in your body. And well, you need to become more grounded. You might also benefit from working with some grounding gemstones like hematite, for example. And well, I think you need to put your psychic pursuits on pause, as I said before, until you become more grounded, because your psychic abilities are ungrounded. You are able to leave your body and visit other people's bodies. That's your psychic ability. You can tap into other people's energies, and you can probably also astral travel, but you need to stop practicing those things and start grounding yourself. And well, that doesn't mean you won't be able to use your psychic abilities in the future. You will be very much able to do that, but only when you master doing it from the sanctuary, the sanctity of your own body. And well, now you are tapping into people's energies by visiting people, and in the future I see you will be able to tap into people's energies by reading people instead of feeling them. And maybe tarot would be a good place to start if you're not already reading tarot. I think many of you are, because like tarot might be the perfect medium that will make you able to read people's emotions, but from a distance. And so I think you should try it out. I actually think you could become really good at reading tarot, because I think you can put your own emotions into the cards. Like if you buy a tarot deck, or if you have your own tarot deck, I think you might benefit from taking some time to get to know your cards first and assign a feeling to every card instead of reading the symbols. You should read the feelings that the card give you, because this is what you're good at. Like you're good at picking up on feelings. So try to feel the cards. Try to figure out what feelings the cards spike and remember those feelings. And you can also use yourself, because you've been through a lot in your life, so you know how the cards feel. You know how it is to be the 10 of Swords. You know how the 10 of Swords feels, for example, because you've tried to be in that pain. And so when you start putting your own feelings into the cards, you can actually start practicing reading other people using your own feelings. And at first, the tarot can be used as a medium, something that you put your emotions into, and then when you read for others and a particular card comes up, then you will know how the person you are reading for feels, because you know how the card makes you feel. And that way you can still read people's emotions, but from a distance. And with time, you will be able to read people without the cards, but still at a distance, because with time, you will be able to read people's feelings by using your own feelings as a measurement. Like you can begin to imagine how people feel by thinking of how you would feel yourself if you were in their shoes. And there is a distinction here, and this distinction is important, because this is a distinction between being empathic and being empathetic. When you are empathic, you tap into people's feelings. You leave your body to figure out how it is to be the other person's, how it is to be in the other person's body. But if you're empathetic, you are able to read how the other person feels by imagining how you would feel if you were in the other person's place. But you are still within yourself, within your body while you're doing it, because you're using yourself as a measuring cup, if that makes sense. And being empathic and being empathetic are both psychic abilities. Remember that. Those are two psychic abilities. They are just different, but it's still psychic abilities, and you need to train yourself into just being empathetic. Not just, but being empathetic. Being skilled at guessing how the other person feels instead of knowing how they feel, because it will take much less of a toll on you in the long run. And with time, you will be so good at guessing that it will be practically as good as knowing, if that makes sense. So yeah, that is what I see for you, group number 2. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 3. You chose this citrine. So I'll just draw some cards here. So we'll just see here. So the star, 7 of Cups reversed, Nine of Pentacles reversed, Ten of Swords upright, 3 of Staffs or 3 of Wands. So with the star card here, so I think you have the ability to read the stars. So I think you have a gift of using the stars for divination. In other words, you're good at astrology. You're good at reading people using their natal chart. You might also be good at guessing what signs people have. I also think you are good at interpreting symbols in, for example, tarot cards. So I think you could be a good tarot reader. But I also think you are good at interpreting symbols in dreams. But I also think, well, there is something here about the body. Because, like, when I look at this 10 of Swords card here, for some reason I see this woman here as someone who's getting a massage, and I think you are quite good at massaging people and healing people with your hands. I think you can do energy healing, Reiki healing, chakra healing, but also, like, most of all, shiatsu healing, shiatsu massage, because I think you are able to read the body. Like, when you massage people, you can interpret the muscle knots and the muscle tensions, and you can find an emotional explanation for these tensions, because you can see that the body is just a physical manifestation of the mind, and so every muscle reflects something within the mind, a repressed emotion. And I also think that if you did physical therapy, not physical therapy, but like therapy combined with physical touch, like shiatsu, where you took people through like their childhood while you were massaging them, and then when you can then when you can feel like the muscles become tense or cramping up, you know that you are circling in on the issue that is causing the tension. Then you know what emotional baggage needs to be resolved in order to relieve the person from the pain that they are in. And so you are a healer. You can heal people holistically by healing their mind, body and spirit as a whole, and you are also able to interpret symbols that are shown to you through body language as well. Like if you have a person in for counseling, you can read their body language. If you talk to someone about their past and they start losing their posture and curl up into a bit of a fetal position, you can interpret that as the person having issues with their mother, or that their mother didn't give them enough attention or love as a child. And so every time the body, like you see a body go into the fetal position, you interpret that as a body, like for example, as a body trying to signalize that it wants motherly attention and affection. And so also like stomach cramps, especially in children, can be a signal, like a direct signal from the body to the mother, because stomach cramps make children curl up into a fetal position. And this might be nature's way to make the mother perceive the child as a fetus again, in order to trigger the mother's motherly instincts and stuff like that. And I think you're good at stuff like that. I think you are able to read symbols like that. I made my own personal discovery a few months ago. I've been suffering from restless legs syndrome for 10 years. But then a few months ago, I realized that my restless leg syndrome was a physical manifestation of my mind wandering off. And so I realized that I could actually stop my legs from shaking or moving if I just stopped my mind from wandering off. And so I think there are many symbols to interpret in our body. Our body is trying to tell us something, and it's using symbols. It is trying to show us that our mind is wandering off by making our legs move uncontrollably, and our body is making us curl into a fetal position as a symbol to our mother to start mothering us. And everything is symbolic, really, and we need to interpret everything symbolically. Of course, the medical system wouldn't accept that. They wouldn't even accept the fact that the body and mind are intertwined. When I went to the doctor for advice on my restless leg syndrome, my doctor just told me to force my legs to stop moving. That every time I noticed my legs moving, I should just force them to stop moving. And then my doctor believed that it would gradually go away with time. But well, it didn't. I had it for 10 years, because forcing your legs when you have restless legs disorder or syndrome, is not, you can't do that, because forcing your legs would make your legs start aching. You get pins and needles, you get this tingling sensation in your legs, and that's why I wasn't able to fix this problem for 10 years. But in just a few months, I've been able to stop my legs from moving by not stopping them at all, by stopping my mind instead, not doing anything at all to my legs, but only stopping my mind from daydreaming and stopping my mind from leaving my body and stuff like that. And I think you have the psychic ability to read body language and read the body in general, and you can heal people by using the body as a map to the psyche. And well, that's exactly what I see here also in the Seven of Cups reversed, because, well, when it's upright, you can see that there's like a castle, and the road to the castle is foggy. When it's reversed, I believe that the castle is foggy and the road is clear. And what that tells me in this particular context is that the castle is the mind and the road is the body. And people usually have the understanding that the mind is clear and the body is foggy. The body is unknown, while the mind is known. And that's often why we think they are separate, because we understand our mind, but we don't understand our body. But you see it you see it reversed. You see the body as clear, and like clear as day, and the mind as foggy. That the mind can play tricks on us, but the body can't. The body is the truth teller. The body is the key to understanding the mind. The mind is not the key to understanding the body, and so you are good at reading the mind of others by using the body as the key to the mind. You can detect even the most repressed emotions by reading how the body reacts when you talk about people's childhood and walk them through memory lane and walk them through their relationship with their mother. You can see the hidden feelings. You can see the feelings that might even be hidden to the patient, because those feelings are revealed to you in their body language. And I see that you are just really skilled at reading the body language and reading symbols in general. And also, if people make Freudian slips when they say something, like where they say something but they meant to say something completely different, then you can interpret that as their subconscious mind trying to tell them something. And so I think you are just good at reading people in general. You're good at reading between the lines. You're good at seeing what others, like also with this, like also with the Three of Staffs here. Like I didn't even, when I saw this card first, I didn't notice the ship here, like in the background. But there's a ship here, and well, the first time I saw this ship, I thought it was a Loch Ness monster for some reason. And so I think you're good at interpreting symbols, but you're mostly good, like more specifically good at interpreting how others interpret symbols, if that makes sense. Like, I'm thinking of like the ink blot test, like the Rorschach test, where a therapist shows a patient an ink spot and the patient then tells the therapist what they see, and then the therapist can read the patient by looking at what they saw out of the ink spot. And so if they saw like a frightening dragon or a flower or their mother or the grim reaper or something else, and then the therapist can figure out if there is a symbolic meaning behind it. And so I really think you should think about becoming a therapist, especially a Freudian therapist, because I really think you could help people figure out things about themselves that they didn't know. You might also be able to hypnotize people and communicate directly with their subconscious mind while they are in hypnosis. So yeah, I think you have a very important psychic ability to read symbolism, and even though it might not seem as cool as like being a medium and seeing dead people or hearing dead people and stuff like that, it is still a very important gift, and I see that you will heal people. And if you would write a book in the future about your holistic findings, I think you could heal even more people, and you could make people more aware of their body and their subconscious mind. And well, with the 9 of Pentacles here reversed, well, there is a peacock. If you look at this, there's a peacock here on the picture, and well, there was a peacock in group number 1 as well, and in the reading that group number 1 had. And funny enough, the peacock was also reversed in group number 1's reading. I interpreted the peacock reversed as being symbolic for the peahen in group number 1's reading, that the peacock attracts the peahen. The peacock is the passive part, and the peahen is the active part who needs to approach the peacock, not the other way around. And I think that is a relationship you have with the spiritual world as well, or the spirit world. You need to actively approach it. Like it's a bit like the spirit is leaving breadcrumbs in order for you to follow the breadcrumbs and find the answers you're looking for. And I told group number 1 that it's the best relationship to have with the spirit world, because then you won't be bothered by the spirit world. Then you won't be woken up in the middle of the night by someone's grandmother who wants to give you a message that you need to deliver to their grandson. Like, you are in control of your psychic abilities. You can turn them off and on. You are the peahen. You can choose to approach the peacock. You can also choose not to, and the peacock is passive. So if you don't actively pursue the peacock will not actively pursue you. And well, as I said to group number 1, this doesn't mean that you are any less psychic than the people who receive messages without asking for them. And you shouldn't be envious of these people, because they probably wish to be as you. Like, they are envious of you as well. Like, they wish that they were so much in control of their gift. And so the bottom line is that it is positive to be able to seek out the answers to your questions instead of being bombarded with answers to questions you didn't even ask for. And so you are more in control of your psychic abilities in this way. And well, so that's what I say for you, group number 3. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye. Hello, group number 4. You choose this shadow kite. And so right away, I think I will start with a channeled message and then I will proceed to the cards. And right away, I think you are psychic mediums. You have the ability to work as a medium between this world and the spiritual world, and the spirit world. And I'm fairly certain that you've had this ability since you were a child, and some of you are aware of this, and for some of you it was quite obvious as a child, and for others of you your mediumship was a bit more subtle, and so I don't think you necessarily saw or heard anything out of the ordinary, but I think you were born with this extremely strong conscience. And well, conscience means with knowing or together knowing, and so the conscience means the knowledge that we share with someone else, and mostly who is referred to is God. So the conscience is the knowledge we share with God. So if we, for example, steal something when no one is watching, there is a chance that we will get away with it, but we won't completely get away with it because we have to live with the fact that God knows what you did and what we did. And well, in your case, it wasn't only God. I believe that a relative of yours might have died when you were a baby, or maybe even before you were born. And I think you always felt like that relative was watching you, watching over you. And so I feel a strong sense that you never felt alone as a child, that you always felt like there was someone by your side looking out for you and protecting you. But I also sense that this was a bit of a disciplinary figure as well, so you might have felt like they were catching you in the act. Like if you did something wrong when no one was looking, you might have felt like they were like raising their eyebrow at you a bit. And so I think you had a strong moral compass as a child. You didn't do anything bad, you didn't lie, you didn't steal, you didn't bully anyone, because it seemed you didn't want to disappoint the people on the other side. And well, if you didn't have any close relatives who passed away when you were a baby or before you were born, you might have just had a very close relationship to God or to a guardian angel. And I think that is because you were very receptive as a child. You were very open to the spirit world. You were a medium. And so I don't think it was easy for you to be this way as a child. And you might have been a very easy target for bullies. And well, there is a perfectly logical explanation for that. You had a strong conscience. Your connection to the spirit world made you unable to do bad things, because you always knew there was someone out there watching you, and so you only acted in the way you believed your ancestors or spirit guides or guardian angels or God or whatever wanted you to act. And I think the other children picked up on that quite quickly. They saw that you could do well, that they saw that they could do whatever they wanted towards you, and you would never stoop to their level. You just turned the other cheek, and I think you still do that to this day. You still turn the other cheek. You are like the emperor, like the other children might have tried to break you down, but you didn't break, you didn't change your values, you kept your moral compass intact. And I think you will become a strong spiritual leader one day, if that is what you want, of course, because I see that you've been through trials, like people have tested your faith your whole life. People have taken advantage of your goodness, but you've not allowed that to change you, if that makes sense. And so I'll just draw some cards here for you because I want to get more insight. And so Eight of Cups reversed. Okay, so the Emperor is here, and I felt a strong presence from this Emperor. I was very sure that the Emperor would come up, and so the Emperor is here as well. The Sun, okay, nice. So the Sun is here. The Chariot is here. And the Eight of Wands is here. Reversed. So this is quite interesting. So with the Sun here, I see that your light is shining brighter than ever. And well, you are what old school religious people would call God-fearing, which for some reason has gotten a negative connotation in this day and age, because people don't like to see fear as a good thing, but fear is a good thing. Fearing God is good. And well, now some of you might not be religious, but well, instead of God-fearing, think of it as ancestor-fearing or guardian angel-fearing or whatever, ghost-fearing. And this fear has made you this honest person. Everything you do is done in broad daylight, as you see here. You can't do anything in the shadows, because you can't do anything in the darkness, because there is no darkness for you. And because you always have God or your ancestors or your guardian angels shine light on everything you do. And so in a way, it's like God or your ancestors or your guardian angels have been following you your whole life, and their light has been so bright that they've eliminated the darkness. So you've never been able to hide in the darkness. You've never been able to hide from God or your ancestors. And so this is another thing that might have caused bullying, because I don't think you were aware of just how special you were as a child. When you were a child, you weren't aware that others didn't have this strong sense of being watched all the time. You weren't aware that you had a freakishly strong conscience, and there were children out there with a very, very very, very weak conscience, even like non-existing conscience. And so you couldn't imagine that there were people like that in the world. You couldn't imagine that people would be able to do evil things without their conscience objecting and interfering. And so I think you believed that people would do good by you. And also, since the light was always shining through you, you couldn't see the evil. You couldn't spot if people had bad intentions, or if people were manipulating you, because you could only see the good in people, never the bad. And so I think you were considered a bit gullible or naive or a bit too trusting, but that wasn't a bad thing. It was admirable. And I still think you are this way. I still think you see the good in people, that you give people the benefit of the doubt, that you have a natural trust in people, even though you've had people break that trust plenty of times. And I think that is rather special. I think that shows character. People have, like, you are the emperor. This has given you so much character. People have tried to steal your light, but you've been able to protect it, and that is truly a gift, especially since you are a medium, because I see that you won't have any bad experiences with your mediumship. You won't be able to pick up on evil spirits. And so now I'm going to be quite specific, but I see that for some of you, you've had a guardian angel since you were a baby, and I think for some of you that was your grandfather or some other male in your family who passed away either right before your birth or right after your birth. And I think maybe one of you were actually named after that relative, and so I think your name might have caused this spiritual bond between you two. But that's only for one of you, or some of you. And well, okay, so now this reading will become a bit metaphysical, but something just occurred to me. So I have been like a bit puzzled here over the fact that this guardian angel of yours didn't protect you from the bullying, because, well, guardian angels are supposed to protect us, and actually this guardian angel seemed to have caused you more bullying and more pain. And so since he he caused more bullying because he contributed to this strong conscience that made you unable to fight back when the bullies bullied you. But really, now that I think of it, I think you were so heavily protected by this guardian angel, who might have been your grandfather, because he knew you were extremely open to the spirit world. He knew that you were a medium, and so I think his main job as a guardian angel for you was to protect your light at all cost, even if that meant that he had to force you to turn the other cheek when the other kids were bullying you, which I actually think he hated doing, because I think he hated to see you suffer, but he knew that if he didn't protect your light, if he didn't protect the good in you, then the darkness would consume you, and you would start seeing the evil in the world, and that would subsequently make you able to see the evil in the spirit world as well, and that would have left you very vulnerable to evil spirits. And so I think you were protected as a child, even though you might not have felt like you were being protected at times, but that was because the alternative was much worse. And so I think you can thank this guardian angel now, because now you can actually work as a medium, because there is no risk involved, because you can only see the light. You can only become a medium for the good spirits, because your guardian angel has made sure that you are blind towards the evil ones, that you can't see them. And so if you are feeling afraid of exploring your gifts of mediumship, then you shouldn't be, because there is nothing to be afraid of, because you will not encounter any evil spirits. Your guardian angel has made sure of that. And so I think, well, with the sun here, you're a child of light. You are supposed to shine your light on people. I think you can heal people because you see the good in them. And so sometimes people only behave badly because other people expect them to behave badly. Like for example, the kid who keeps getting in trouble in school, but maybe he's only doing that because the teachers perceive him as a troublemaker, and so maybe he's just acting on people's expectations. And maybe you can actually heal some people by expecting something different, by expecting people to be good. And so I think you could become a very good child psychiatrist. And with the emperor here, I actually think of, with the spelling of emperor, the French spelling, it reminds me a bit of temperature. And with the sun here as well, I think you are supposed to raise the temperature of the world, figuratively of course. You are supposed to shine your light on people. You are supposed to create warmth between people. You might also be able to work as a medium for people, like for two people, like from this world, like marriage counseling. Like you can get people together. You can make people see eye to eye. You are able to look inside people's souls and see the good that people share with each other. Like if you were a marriage counselor and you had had a couple in for counseling and they were arguing, you would be able to show them afterwards, after they've stopped arguing, what things they actually agreed on in the argument, what things that were said in the argument that actually were good, that actually showed hope for reconciliation, the things that they said to each other that proved that they actually loved and cared for each other, like, if that makes sense. And so I think you are able to do that because, like, you are able to see the good in people. You can see like you can see past the name calling and the insults and see the reasons behind the name calling and the insults. Like, you know, the movie Good Will Hunting, you know, that scene in that movie where Will Hunting goes to therapy and keeps insulting the therapist, and the therapist doesn't get mad. Instead, he starts hugging Will Hunting and starts telling him that it's not his fault, and then Will Hunting starts breaking down in tears. And well, you can do the same, like, because you have this ability to see why people act the way they act, because you don't see evil as evil. You don't believe in evil. You believe that every evil act has a good reason, and that you can turn the evil into good just by shining your light on it. And I think you can do that. And that's also what I see here, like with the 8 of Cups, like reversed. When it's upright, it's often illustrated as a man walking away from cups, and when it's reversed, it is a man reconciling with the cups. And so I think you are able to, first of all, give people second chances, which some people might not see as a good thing, but I personally think it is a good thing. But also I think you can make other people reconcile, people who have broken up, people who have lost contact, and well, of course also people who have lost relatives, like who have relatives who are dead. You can help them reconcile with their dead relatives as a medium. And I think that is your soul mission here on earth, to make people reconcile with their loved ones, dead or alive, making people come together and see eye to eye. And so with the Chariot here, that is exactly what I'm like, that's exactly what I mean, because like this person here is in charge of these horses, and these horses are attached to the wagon, but the horses are riding in complete opposite directions. So it is this person's job to make these horses see eye to eye, to start riding in the same direction. And so yes, now this is a bit strange, and I don't know if this exists, but like right now I'm seeing this picture here as marriage counseling, and this is a marriage counselor here, and this is like a couple here. These horses are a couple in marriage counseling, and these two horses, like, but the funny thing here is that if you notice it, the person here, who is you, actually has 2 faces on each shoulder, and that makes me think of mediumship, like someone who is contacting other people. And so you might be able to do like psychic marriage counseling in a way, like you're able to combine your psychic mediumship with marriage counseling and try to help couples by using using guidance from the spirit world. And well, I don't know if that exists, but like maybe you can make that exist. Like I think you could, but because I think you could do that, I think you can help unite people using guidance from the spirit world. And but I also think with the sun here, and also the 8 of Cups, I think you are the Eight of Cups reversed. I think you are supposed to help people out of the darkness as well. Like people who suffer from depression, you are supposed to be the sun here, who is absorbing, like you can see how the sun is absorbing the tears. You are supposed to absorb the tears. And maybe you can also be, like maybe you can do some inner child healing as well, because that's maybe exactly what you can do, because you have this ability to see the goodness and the purity in people. And I guess you can say that that is exactly what the inner child is. There is nothing more pure and good than the inner child, and so I think you can heal people by shining light on their inner child, to make people see the good and pure in themselves, to see the child inside themselves that was potentially abused, and how that abuse is the reason why they behave in the evil way they behave as adults. And well, that is also what the therapist did in Good Will Hunting, the movie Good Will Hunting. And so I think you are pure, and that's why you can spot the purity in other people. And I think that is a gift you've been given by God, and you need to use that gift to raise the temperature in this world, to make people more warm towards each other. And well, with the Emperor here, I think you are supposed to be an authority figure of some kind. You are supposed to lead the masses. You are supposed to show people the way. You are supposed to share your moral compass with people. You need to teach people how to grow a conscience, but also you need to teach people how to be more understanding towards one another. And well, with the Eight of Wands here reversed, I think you also are supposed to teach people restraint, teach people to not do anything they will regret in the future, to not act on impulses, like turning the other cheek instead of just going ballistic on a person, like and like the therapist in Good Will Hunting, to meet a hostile person with compassion instead of hostility. And well, I think you will make a difference in this world with your gift. Maybe you'll even write a book on morals and ethics or something like that, and I think you will make a difference in the world. And so that is what I see for you, group number 4. I hope you enjoyed this reading, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in my next reading. Bye.